Just excuse my very thick hair. Yeah. Owning my hair.
Cool. Great. Everyone's here almost. So welcome everyone. We're so glad that you joined us. Sorry for keeping you a few minutes in the waiting room, but you're here and we're glad. So welcome to 2021. 2022. It's a big blur, right? I don't know about you guys, but I feel like 2020 just like blended into 2021 for me, and it's all just the same. But we're glad you're here and we're glad that you're in the room. I'm going to hand over to Lucretia, who's going to officially welcome you and give us an intro into today, and then we're going to dive in. So, Lou, off to you.
Thank you, Cher, and good evening, everyone. And yes, welcome to On Your Space 2021. This is our very first get together, and we're very excited. We're looking forward to so much on the E-Squared side. We don't have our full program for the year yet, but we're obviously looking for more platforms like this one, just for mostly ladies to come together and just talk about everything entrepreneurship and everything that affects entrepreneurs and that defines us. I want to welcome, she's still not here, right? Dineo has just been held up, but she'll be joining us shortly, our special guest for tonight. And I also want to just thank Cheryl again for this journey that I've enjoyed so much working with her since joining E-Squared. And I want to welcome our male supporters, our chief supporter, Sipo Pilime, as well as Ludwig. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for always coming to this platform so that you can understand some of our challenges as female entrepreneurs. And I especially want to welcome all our guests tonight, and we really, really appreciate your presence on this platform, and we're very excited about it and all the feedback that you give us. For now, I'll hand you back to our pilot, Cher. So we can start for now. I think we're just going to chat around just as Dineo settles back in. Unfortunately, her meal arrived just as we were about to start, and she had to go all the way back to her main gate to collect it, but she'll be with us shortly. Thanks, everyone. I don't know if we have anyone in the audience for the time being. I think Shay is with Dineo on the phone at the time. If we have any one of the ladies who just wants to share their experience for 2021. For some of us, we've had a lot of challenges with COVID, but I just hope everyone is well and just coping with all the challenges COVID related. Welcome back, Cher, over to you.
Thank you. So this is what you call teamwork, guys. That makes the dream work. So while Lou was just trying to buy us time, I was trying to get Dineo back into the room. So she's about to join us. I think that her link is working. Yeah, here she is. So great, welcome. So thank you, Lou. Thank you for making the dream work whilst we got Dineo into the room. So welcome, Dineo.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. And thank you also for the patience, guys. I was just really stressing out, trying to figure out why the link is not allowing me to enter into the call, but I'm glad that's all sorted. So thank you also for buying some time for us.
Yeah, so we're glad that you're here, and don't worry, no need to apologize too much. The thing about technology is that we're all figuring it out, and when we need it the most, it lets us down. And so we all just learn to be flexible and very gracious as we all journey through these very uncertain times. So we're glad you're here. I hope you're feeling okay. I hope your meal has arrived.
It has. Thank you.
Great.
I can't wait to open the surprise.
Cool. So a few of you would get it. I think the first 20 registrations received a meal with this. So when you do get it, we'll excuse you to go collect it and enjoy it whilst we have this conversation. So maybe let me just set the scene. Normally these sessions are quite intimate. We try and keep them in that way, because we want to sit around a virtual dinner table and have conversations. So it's usually lighthearted and very conversational, and it's not too technical. So we don't focus too much on entrepreneurial questions. We covered that in the session called Get Dirty with Entrepreneurship. So we host one of those. So look out for those sessions where you get to ask your really technical entrepreneurial questions. But these ones are just for us to showcase entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs who journey with us here at E Squared and who are fellows to you fellows. So they're colleagues to you, they're in the fellowship with you, so you will know them. So I'm not going to spend too much time telling you who Dineo is, because I know that you all know her in one or other capacity. And she's a real rock star, as long as we're concerned. Like 2 masters, worked for the foundation a little while, did some work there, went on to do some amazing stuff, 3 startups against her name so far, and really making strides, especially with Cape Bio, as they try and tackle testing for COVID. And so that's not really what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the person, Dineo, and I want us to focus on that today. So Dineo, welcome to the dinner table with Lucretia and myself. We field questions together. Lucretia helps me mostly to look at what's happening in the chat and share what's happening with the fellows. So guys, if you want, please use the chat to either share comments, ask Dineo a question, and then Lucretia is going to be the one who either brings you on. If you're willing to put your camera on and share your question with us, then you're more than welcome to do that. And if you want to just put your question out there, then Lou will read it for you. So Dineo, I think you must know this. I know you were at the last session with Susie, so you know I play a game at the beginning.
Yes.
And and so today's is Dineo's absolute must-haves. So we all have our must-haves, right? Like we have this thing we need. Like for me, it's the slippies. Like I totally need this lipstick. It's my thing. It doesn't smudge. I can wear a mask. It doesn't come out. And so we all need our one thing that we need in certain places. So I have to ask you 4 things, I think. So the first one is, what is your absolute must-have in your handbag?
My cell phone, and I would also say my, lipstick. I am such a sucker for lipstick. I'm that one person at the office, like I always have a different color lipstick every day. It's rare where you find that I don't wear lipstick. I love it. I think it's just expression of my femininity. So lipstick and my cell phone. Yeah.
Now cell phone makes sense, yes. And lipstick, well, kudos to you who can do a different color every day. I'm just like this one color, it is my lip.
Yeah.
Like people don't know my actual lip color because it's always printed.
It is quite a nice color, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. Okay, cool. What is the absolute must-have in your car?
Oh, petrol and a spare tire. I hate being a damsel in distress. I don't want to find myself in a situation where I have to stop on the side of the road and like beg like some stranger to help me. So yeah, that's the must have that I have to have in my car.
That is so smart. That is so cool. Okay. I never thought about that. Like when crafting these things, I was thinking like, hand sanitizer, wet wipes.
I guess now with COVID, right? That would be super important. Well, yeah. I have those. But yeah, I think I would really freak out if ever I ran out of petrol on the highway or I have a flat tire. It happened to me once, and I had borrowed somebody's car and they didn't have a spare wheel, and it was such a stressful event. And I was like, that should never happen again. So that's a must-have for me. Yeah.
No, it's so sensible, right? Like just check if you always have a spare tire, make sure it's always like inflated, and then petrol, obviously. Yeah. I think as women, I think in South Africa, it's not always the best thing to run into people on the side of the road.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the reality that we have to live in.
Yeah. So guys, Megan just put up a poll. So if you are able to, then just click on the poll and then engage that poll with us. Okay, Dineo, the next one is in your home. What is your absolute must-have in your home? And I know there's many, but choose the absolute must.
Cleanliness, number one.
Wow.
I really like clean spaces. Yeah, cleanliness, and I'm sure you can see the pink in the background. I really love like pink, feminine, soft touch kind of look. And lately, I'm also a plant person. You can see it in the background. So that's my new thing. I'm trying to have like flowers, different flowers, every week, just to light up the room. I just love coming home to a sanctuary. So yes, cleanliness, things that I love, just a sense of peace, because you know the world outside is already so stressful. So I need to come back to a lovely place that I just want to be in most of the time.
Actually, I love that. You know, we're all for pink. Yes, I'm kind of pinky too. I have lots of pink in the background. But I think the thing about Sorry, you were saying?
No, I was saying pink is like it's one of those childhood things I just never outgrew. I still love pink. Those close to me know that.
Me as well, actually. The thing about I love what you said about cleanliness, because I think it's next to godliness, but and I think that's something we all learned as kids, right? But I so love the thing where you said about peace. I think we don't realize how important peace is, and peace of mind, and how our homes are that sanctuary that we come to. My mom once told me this. It was either my mom or my sister, or probably both, because my mom probably gave her the same advice. But they said, the world is so hectic, and when you go out there, it's almost as if you go out to battle. But when you come home, it's the place before you enter the door, you just drop your armor. And then you get to be so safe and vulnerable in that place at home. And you can only do that if you know you're entering a space where there's peace. So I love that. I love that perspective.
I love the comment there. There's someone saying electricity these days. So true.
Well, guys, that is also not in our hands or in our control. So like maybe gas is what we need to always have. And the last one, which is probably a sensitive one, or depends on how you read it, but what is an absolute must-have in a relationship?
Oh, okay. I'll take that as generic, as in friendships. So just generic relationships. But I think, you know, respect and love, those are must-haves for me. You know, all relationships go through many challenges, but as long as like the foundation of respect and love for one another is there, then we're good to go.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Great. How about you, Lou? I'm just throwing you in there because I can.
Yeah, well, yeah, Dineo works in a lab and I don't. And I'm laughing at you both because like with my house, it's music. I'm always playing music depending on my mood, either something soft, something spiritual. At some point, like an absolute must have for my house is music and a good speaker, which I have.
Ooh, nice.
And that goes for my car as well. I thought there was a question about a car, like an absolute must have in your car as well. For me, again, it's music for that. Cleanliness, well, okay, we can work around that because I do have a 9-year-old in the house. So we're still learning. So yeah, very interesting responses. I have people here in the chat also from Megan. She's saying, I love essential oil diffuser foaming. And I'm with you, Megan, there, because I'm also that person who I'm a homebody most of the time. So I also just love to have that me time where I pretend I'm not a mom, shut the bathroom door and have everything and just, you know, unwind. And somebody said food in the house is an absolute essential. Good for you. And someone I agree with is wine and a bubble bath. That's an absolute must, especially now. And I hope you're well stocked for this phase.
And we come visit.
Someone is saying an ergonomic office chair. I don't know why you want to have that in your home as an absolute essential, but yeah, it's coming from a guy, so we get it. The only way we're gonna keep you home is with your gadgets and some working space, right? And somebody says data. Obviously, we are so dependent now on the network. So very interesting responses.
It's amazing how we all have such different must-haves, but we all have a must-have, like the thing we need. So Lou, I'm very similar to you. Music is my thing. It's playing in the background always.
Yeah.
And having a good speaker is like, yeah, it's a must. And the same in the car. Like I just can't go anywhere without something blaring. Many people don't like my taste in music, so not many people drive along with me. And I think it might be my strategy, but don't tell anybody. So, Dineo, the theme for today was really about the path less traveled, and we know that your path has really been a contrarian one. And when I think about that path that's less traveled, I think about courage. I think that it's not the easiest of journeys to take, and you have to be quite courageous to want to go down that path. And we know yours hasn't been very traditional. You studied, you did your first master's, and instead of going and getting that job like everyone would have probably expected you to, you went off to Cambridge and decided to do another master's. And so we know that today we want to focus on that contrarian path, on that path less traveled. And so we're going to unpack some of that and what it actually means. So let's dive in, shall we?
Sure.
So there's this quote.
I just wanted to check, is there any background noise? I have my sliding door open because it's so hot. This is the Pretoria heat. So I don't know do I need to close it or is everything good?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. I don't hear anything. Yeah, so it's good. Cool. So there's this quote by Charles Bukowski that I really like. And he says, "Can you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be?" Mm-hmm. So we all have these molds, right, that we're expected to follow. And I don't know, I speak from an Indian context, and I'm assuming that it's quite similar for most households, not just Indian homes, but they tell you to go to school and then do well, right? Then you're supposed to go to university and, like do well is the important thing. Like you can't just go there and catch a job. You go there and you do well, you focus on your studies.
Yeah.
Then you get a job. And you do well at that job, so you can get a promotion at that job, and then do well at the promotion, so you can get the next promotion. Then you have to get married, obviously, and then you have the babies, and then you do well at parenting and being a spouse. And that cycle continues. Like they have this expectations that the step is 1, 2, 3, 4, and do well at all of it. And so I think my question to you is, what were you faced with? What was a social construct for you that you were faced with that you did not conform to? And how did you handle that? How did you handle the pressure or the questioning or the raised eyebrows?
That's a very good question, Cheryl. Geez. Really the main thing, it's been a journey, right? I don't want to say that it's something that automatically switched on. But the one thing that, in my decision making that I've always had to be consistent with is just really being true to myself, and being true to what I believe my purpose is. And that purpose for me, it's really in alignment with my faith. So you'll notice that I'll really add elements of my faith in this conversation, because it really just is my compass and guiding point in everything that I do. And even at some of the tough decisions that I've really had to make, which were unconventional, they were based on my faith. And I just would never have peace with myself, and and also be able to live that out and do well if, I just didn't feel like something made sense with regards to where I'm going in my path. So just really staying true to myself. And one of the things that I just maybe something that's a bit more tangible is my essence of creativity. So from a young child, I've really just been creative. I was that kid who would, try different recipes, try and fiddle around with the electronics in the house, just be creative. And I always wanted to be in a space where I was given freedom to do that. And I remember my first job, it was actually vacation work. So as an engineer, you spend 3 years studying, and then your second and third year, you have to do vacation work. So I was placed at a mine. And it was the most boring job for me, because it literally took me, it was an 8-week program, and it took me 6 weeks to convince them to try something new, to be creative. They tasked me to optimize something, and because they were so stuck in their ways, If a process has been working for, the past 50 years, that's exactly what they're going to use for the next 50 years. So I just found that, this was going to stifle my creativity. And because I didn't feel like I can't really fully express who I am in this space, it just became almost like a natural inclination for me to be like, maybe this is not where I'm meant to be. And in retrospect, I'm so glad that I didn't do that, because I would have been extremely bored. I don't think I would have made a good, mining engineer. So yeah, just really staying true to myself and knowing what my gifts are, that I believe I came into this earth with, and being able to fully express that in what I'm doing. And also because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, if I can't do something properly and if my heart is really not in it, and not in the emotional sense, but like really coming from a point of passion and buy-in, it's difficult for me to really do it, wholeheartedly, to maybe be at an 80%, but I'm like 110% person. So it's those things that really matter to me, to be able to fully express who I am and my vision and my mission. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I think it's so important that we hear that perspective, because I'm going to start to ask you harder questions about like how does that work, and what do you dig into in order for you to be able to make those decisions. So thank you for the honesty. And I think for me it's totally great that you can also be honest and vulnerable enough to share that part of it is driven by your faith. And I think it's not something that people easily speak about, but to have something bigger than yourself that you believe in and you can tap into is great to share that with us. And I think a lot of people shy away from it, but I can appreciate your vulnerability around it. So with that said, and the fact that you like to be creative and you knew that like doing mining engineering work was just so not for you. Nora Ephron is the one who says, and if anyone's wondering who's Nora Ephron, then she's the one who created When Sally Met Harry or Harry Met Sally movie kind of thing. Like she's old, but she's like one of those first feminists that came out. But she says this quote that says, "Above all, be the heroine in your own life, not the victim." And I think for me, there's so many victims walking around. There's just my sister calls it victimitis. She says there's so many people infected with victimitis. Like they feel so.
I'm grabbing that one.
You totally steal it. But it's like people have this victimhood, right? It's about I'm a victim of the circumstances I find myself in. I mean, I'm the victim of the home in which I got raised, or the fact that my parents aren't well educated, or that we didn't have access to opportunity. And there's a whole lot of stories that we tell ourselves. And then we just become the victims to those circumstances. And at no point do we think, but I could be the person who could change the trajectory. I could change the cycle, but I have to make that decision to do that. And I think with that, it means that there's a certain level of authenticity that has to come through. And so I know being an entrepreneur and bringing your thing to the world, whatever that thing is. So you obviously, as an entrepreneur, you have the answer to a pain that's in the world. And so whatever that pain is, you have to sit quietly and interrogate it. And there's a certain level of authenticity that comes through that. Because if you're just doing things that someone else is doing, there's no passion, there's no drive. It's like you doing exactly what that same thing that you said. It's a solution they did for 50 years and you just come along and do the same thing. So you're not really an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who finds a solution to a problem and then takes that to the world. And so I think I can understand why many don't think about authenticity or how to tap into it, because it's very easy to hide behind the shadows or the facade that we put on, right? Like we are wearing a mask, and not the COVID need to protect yourself masks, even though we are using those, but we've been living with masks for the longest of times, right? Everybody wears a mask. You don't always show your real self when you show up in a space, and it's scary, and I understand that. But I think if you're going to take the contrarian path, if you're going to go down that path less traveled, then there's a certain level of authenticity. There's a certain level of really tapping into who you truly are. And so I wanted to ask you a question around the courage to be that kind of a person. So what is it like, if I had to say, in you showing up in a space, whether it's taking a product to market, whether it's showing up in a space with your friends or any other room, how do you show up courageously? What does that mean for you? Like to become a courageous or to be a courageous person, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think really one of the things that resonates from what you previously said is just authenticity. I really struggle to be something that I'm not. I could be that person for a bit, and then after some time, it's just going to come out, and I just have to almost like reset towards who I really am. And I'm continuously having conversations with myself as I'm meditating, as I'm praying, just to remind myself as to who I am and who I believe my purpose is. And it comes together with self-awareness, right? So I think if I wasn't so dead set or so aware of what I believe my purpose is, it would be easy for me to almost like, dilly-dally or, not be certain of where I am. But because of the time that I've spent, discovering myself, that's really what's helped me. So it's really difficult for me to not be, what I know I'm called to be, because I know, especially now with COVID, just we're realizing that life is so short. We can't help but not be courageous in everything that we do. We have to be courageous in loving people, showing up in the workplace, going after your dreams. Really, it's time is really of such privilege to us. We have to work towards being more authentic. Otherwise, I think we'll just live a life of regret, and I just hate regret. I really, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love how, like, yes, time is a privilege. And I think we're starting to learn that most definitely. So you said this a few times, and I hope I don't put you on the spot. So I hope you're okay to share this with us. But
Sure.
You said, in a way, you know what your purpose is. You know what it is that you're called to do. And would you like to share that with us? Like, what do you feel
Sure.
is your purpose and your calling?
Absolutely. Can I just switch this light on? I don't know if it's getting a bit dark now.
Yeah,
Is that
it's fine. It's
okay?
perfect.
All right. So I really believe I am here to make an impact, a positive impact in the healthcare space, especially within Africa. I've been so passionate about Africa for the longest of times. And coincidentally, also just around healthcare, because I believe like health is your wealth. So a lot of the innovations that I've thought about are really centered around the healthcare sector. And, I also love helping people. So it's just such a joy for me to be at that intersection where I can do something that I love, and at the same time helping people. And it took some time. And, I have to admit that, the Alan Gray Orbos Foundation, just being part of that program really helped me to move towards that point, because I think if I hadn't been on the scholarship, my life would have turned out, completely different. I think I would have not have been exposed to options, and even some of the pain points that really the world needs to solve, that we need to solve in the world. And just have that exposure made me realize that this is the area in which I'd really love to make an impact in, and that's healthcare. So, if somebody can present me a really lucrative business in, say, I don't know, energy, I'd really think twice, because I have to think about, like, when I wake up, when I breathe and I sleep, am I moving closer to the purpose that I'm called to be? And I also think I have a responsibility, like, also again tying down to my faith. I really feel like when I die, I want to look God in the eyes and say, you know what, God, I did my part. This is, where I poured my life into, and I really don't have regrets. That's really what I want to be able to say that, I left the world a better place, having focused in this area of healthcare.
Cool. I love that. Like having meaning. I think it's really about meaning, and I think it's about being responsible with the life you're given, even if it's not. I mean, if your belief is not that you're going to stand and give an account for your life before God, it's really about, can I live a meaningful life? Can I make a dent on the universe before I exit it? And so I love that. I love that. It's about meaning.
Yeah. Sorry, Cheryl, this light is super bright. Can I go switch on the one behind me? I'm going to turn this one off because it's a bit dark now.
There are members of our audience in the meantime that are agreeing with the sentiments. regarding authenticity and just anchoring yourself within your faith and your value system and your convictions, and the importance of that. And I think from me, it's also the importance of reflection, just taking time to evaluate and meditate, or whatever helps you to reflect on where you are with yourself, with your spirituality, with everything in your life. So for me, that it's my like daily little routine that I do every morning, just to be grateful and reflect on what I'm grateful for, what I'm thankful for, and do my daily files of what I'm trying to achieve for that day, and just be mindful and very conscious of how you're spending your time. We also have someone saying it's good if your entrepreneurial pursuit and I guess your passions are closely aligned to what you really believe your purpose is. That's also really helpful, and it helps you to become really selective about who you take along your journey. So you do have to be very selective of the company that you keep on your journey, and just to make sure that you surround yourself with the right people that support your dreams. Yeah. And then with that, there is a question that what are some of the most critical things, Dineo, that you considered crucial when you were looking for a partner, or whoever you're taking on your journey? What are those qualities?
Yeah, so I think a greater sense of purpose and service. Yes, in a business, money is important, but you don't want to I wouldn't want to go into a business just for money, because there are many ways in which a person can make money, and then the lines sometimes do get blurred. So you want to partner with someone who wants to leave the world a better place. And then
it's the same value.
Same value system, same interests as well. Value system and interests, and just a sense of thinking of the bigger picture. I've always been quite a bigger picture person. So I don't want to be sitting down telling someone my hairy or audacious dream, and then they tell me to water it down. I really hate that. So just having a sense of vision and really seeing the bigger picture. Those are some of the crucial things that are important to me.
Yeah, someone's just saying that's so beautiful when purpose, passion, and work meet, Dineo. So great job. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
It's called the hedgehog, right? Isn't it? Jim Collins calls that the hedgehog. It's when you can find that next step between your passion, your purpose. If you haven't read it, haven't read the book, you should. It's a good to go.
By the way, Cheryl is a walking library. So maybe in every session we must make you recommend at least 5 books to read.
Okay, sure. We can do that. Why not?
She has a whole library behind her.
I do. Yeah. And the others at the bottom, and there's one in the other room. And so, yes, we love reading in this house. So because we stuck on authenticity, there's something I want to ask you, which is 2 parts. One, I want to ask you about family and friends. And I'm asking you this because I think we all go through it. I mean, I'm grown now, I'm big, I have my own family. And I still have expectations my parents have on me in the way, the things I need to do, or how I should behave, or what I can and cannot do or say. And, I think these things follow us irrespective of our age, but they're just things that people have on us, which is expectations. And I wanted maybe for you to share with us in your journey of choosing entrepreneurship, which is a little bit contrary to what would probably be a norm for your family. How did you navigate that? How did you navigate choosing this? How did you explain to your family that this was going to be your choice, and going into a career or getting a job in corporate or in the mining sector or anywhere else as an engineer was not going to be what you were going to do? And how did you navigate through those conversations?
Oh yeah, that's also another really great question. And I think just as you're speaking, that I'm thinking of a scenario which, you know, I've been saying a lot of I haven't really given a tangible experience of, you know, just authenticity, and how that also was tying into my faith. So yes, you know, after I did my first degree, I went on to go do my first master's. And then, of course, my second master's. And, you know, as an Allen Gray Fellow, high achiever, I remember coming from my undergrad, I was like one of the top students, you know, and people didn't understand, oh, you know, why are you studying again? You know, why don't you go get a job? What's happening with you, right? And I almost had to silence those voices. At that time, was coming from my peers, and my family, like they bought into it at the time, right? At the time, they're like, oh no, sure, go study, we support you. And then I got the opportunity to go to Cambridge, which was just like a dream come true. I've really always wanted to go study overseas, and the, you know, the timing was right, the topic, the course that I was going to study was right. It was just a really fantastic time for me to go overseas. I took that opportunity, and you know, I did really well in that degree as well. Great exposure. And I remember even before I came back, there were some management consulting firms that were already trying to approach me to say, hey, you know, we've seen your profile, we think you're great, please come and interview, you know, send us your CV and the likes. And I think I even got selected to represent Mackenzie at one of these like international events that they invited me to. I had to give a motivation as to why they should choose me. And I remember coming back, you know, obviously like my close family and friends, like they knew about this, all these opportunities that were lining up for me. And when I came back, actually before I came back, I got an offer to do a PhD at Cambridge. And, you know, it would have been great. I mean, here you are, you're sitting in a really prestigious university, everything would have been paid for. It's great. And I was working on a really fantastic project at the time. I was looking at inventing a new way of harnessing solar and mechanical energy simultaneously. So like, you know, the division was really like excited about that. And then I knew that, you know, you have to come back home. So that was step one of the disappointments, because people are like, oh, you're saying no to a PhD offer at Cambridge. Are you crazy? I rejected that offer. I come home, you know, I come home. Okay, Dineo, you said no to the PhD offer. Can you go get a job? You are, I think at the time I was 27. I'd never worked because I'd been studying, you know, I'd really had an amazing track record of achievements, academics, the likes, and I'd already started dabbling in entrepreneurship. So, you know, I would have been great for example, consulting, right? And I just knew in my heart and my spirit, consulting was not it. I knew it from the get-go. And, you know, even in my prayer time, God would just tell me, you know, this is not what I have for you. It's not what I have for you. And I remember, you know, people around me were like, okay, you know, I was living with my aunt at that time because she stays in Pretoria, and my family's from Bloemfontein, and I just didn't want to go back to Bloemfontein because I was like, what am I going to do there? So I just moved with my aunt. And then it gets awkward, Cheryl, because here you are, this 27-year-old who's got great credentials, who's not getting a job. Not because you can't, but you just feel like it's not it. You know, and people start feeling like, but you know, you've had enough time. You know, the two masters surely bought you enough time to figure out what you want to do. And at that time, you know, I was already starting to conceptualize some ideas in the healthcare sector. It was really such a great time for me because that was a time period that solidified the fact that I want to be in healthcare. And as I mentioned, like when it came to my faith, like I was getting like really great ideas, which I believe were God-given. And each time it was just like, you know, this job thing, consulting is not for you. And I remember it became really awkward when, you know, parents start sending you CVs. I don't know if you guys have gone through that, hey? They send you CVs and and they're worried, and it comes from a good place, right? Like I love my parents and they really want the best for me. They have so much belief in my potential. So they got worried when like I'm sitting here with like I cummed my Cambridge degree and I'm sitting at home and like nothing is materializing from it. So, you know, they like send the CV there, start asking me if I've applied, what's happening. And I'm really such a bad liar when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like I would either like laugh, giggle, but it came to a point where it was starting to get a bit tense, because now you're living with someone who's happy to support you, but you almost feel like you're becoming a liability because like you're not getting an income. Like this was the real reality where like I was not getting an income, and I'd do odd things at that time while I was still trying to establish my this business concept that I was working on the side. But I didn't at that time. I also felt like it was too early for me to share, because maybe you can relate, but sometimes when you just have something that you're working on that's really precious to you, you want to incubate it first before you share it with the world, because it's still fragile. You don't want people to be like, that's a crazy idea, what the hell are you thinking? So I would spend a lot of time just meditating and really planning, doing research, reading, equipping myself, and trying to understand this journey within the healthcare sector that I was now about to embark on. But at the same time, I'm hearing these voices like, get a job, go get a house, get a mortgage, support yourself, get medical aid. These are some of the real realities, guys, that I'm going to be honest with you. Like I went for years without like a medical aid, simply because like I couldn't afford it at that time. So to the rest of the world, it doesn't make sense, right? But inside, I knew that this was just not the path that I was meant to go. And I'm so grateful that, I listened to my intuition, I listened to my spirit, I listened to what I believe like God was telling me, that, I've got plans for you in entrepreneurship, and this is where you're going to thrive. You could do well as a consultant because you're smart. Yes, you can do it, but that's not where you'll function optimally according to your God-given talents and gifts. So can you just trust me and turn all those job offers down, which was really hard. It was super, super hard, because like if you're looking at an offer that can give you like 800K as your first job, or there was one consulting job where I would fly between London and South Africa, which was great because I really loved the UK. I'd just come back from there, so it would have been ideal. And I knew it was not it. So in turning it down, I also did go through a phase. I mean, I'm not proud of it per se, but I think it had to be done, where I would just like dodge my parents, guys. Dodge my parents. I'm being fully honest with you. Then they'd start like asking about me from my aunt that I was living with, They'd ask my friends, my closest friends. They're like, okay, tell me, what does Dineo do when she wakes up? Like, just help me understand what's going on with her, because we don't know what's happening in her life. She's so tight-lipped about, where she is right now. Just help us out. And they were really, like I said, I love my parents. They were coming from a good place. They want to see the best for me. But sometimes someone's best for you is not the best for you as an individual. And if you're really true to yourself, and it was a tough decision, guys, because I think some of the things that we struggle with as Ellen Gray Fellows is that, we are surrounded by so many expectations of prestige and, what your conventional career path should look like, that it becomes difficult for us to have those honest conversations with ourselves to say that actually what you think is ideal of who Dineo should be is not who I actually want to be, and can you just release me and let me be? It's a tough conversation to have with yourself and with people around you, but I can tell you now, it's the most fulfilling one, and I'm so happy I've made the decisions that I've made in my life. I don't regret them at all, and that leap of faith ultimately has led me to where I am today. If I was stuck in a consulting job, there's no ways I would be, where I am right now. We didn't know we'd be in the middle of a pandemic and we'd have this opportunity to really, solve for a challenge that's relevant to the pandemic. So it has it pays off. It's tough. I won't lie to you. It's tough as hell. There were months, guys, where like, I would go for the whole month with like 500 rand, literally. And these are some of the prices that you pay for being true to yourself. But at the end of the day, I really think the rewards are quite great. And I'm so really satisfied with the decisions that I've made. And that's also one of the things that I'd really love to encourage other fellows to do. That yes, we know, we have these really nice shiny titles. You are an engagement manager, an investment officer, but in your heart of hearts, you really want to do something else. And I think I'm just looking at, for example, Lulu, who is on the line and on the call. Like, she was one person who really inspired me. Like, she knows, like, we would have our calls and talks, and one of the things that we also connected quite deeply spiritually, and we talk about like what we believed God was doing in our lives during that time. And I think she can also attest to the fact that she had a really amazing job in a consulting firm, and she just felt that this is the area that I want to be, where I feel like my life's purpose is. And I'm sure she also had her own challenges that she can share when she gets the opportunity to. But that step of faith and courage, and I think it's a challenging path to take, but it's really so satisfying. So surrounding myself with people like Lulu really just it eased the stress. It was like a little safe space for me to share some of the challenges that I was going through. So I hope that's a tangible example that you guys can really relate to, that goes outside of like just speaking broadly about courage and authenticity.
Wow. I absolutely love it. And I saw Lou as well, just nodding her head, because your honesty is just so refreshing, because it's not easy, like it's the entrepreneurial journey is not an easy one, but it is, like you said, a fulfilling one. But not many people will tell you the nitty-gritties. Like, I had to dodge my parents for a long time.
That one.
And it's so funny, right, Cheryl? Like, that's why you can't live your life for other people, because the same people who were asking me why I'm done, and this is outside of my parents, now they applaud you when you're doing what you love, and they're like, oh my gosh, I so wish I had the freedom that you have. And like, when you think about back then, when you could have used that encouragement and it wasn't there. But of course, no grudges, but you have to, it's those tough decisions that you have to make. But you have to make them, and it was tough. I have to say that there were many nights, guys, where I cried, like when things weren't looking up for me, and I had taken that jump. I would sleep with a wet pillow, basically, because I'm like, are you sure? I would literally pray and be like, God, are you sure? Like, you said this is gonna work. You said this is what you have for me. Are you sure? It's not looking up. I can't, go out for drinks with my friends, my friends invite me for stuff and I can't make it because I don't have the money. Those are the conversations that you have with yourself. And it's tough. Hey, those luxuries that you have to forfeit, and really delaying instant gratification, to be quite honest with you. Those are some of the realities, but totally worth it. I'm so happy with myself right now. I have
you can tell.
We are happy with you as well now.
Thank you.
And I think everyone's really proud, both of you and Dan, at this time. Like, you guys are really making strides, and at a point when we didn't see this pandemic coming, but I mean, it provided you guys an awesome opportunity to step right up. And I love the fact that you say, like, sometimes you have to delay gratification for that bigger thing that's out there, and you have to ask yourself, like, do I get what I want right now, or am I willing to hold out? And even with you, like, I mean, having all those opportunities, from a PhD to having like consultancy jobs thrown at you, but being able to say no to that can be really hard. And when you're young, I can't even imagine how much harder it must be, because it's about the lifestyle. It's about what will people think. I'm like, saying no to friends and not being able to go out because you just don't have the money to do that is really hard when you're a young person. But it's also about saying, am I willing to hold up for the life that I know I could potentially have in the future? And then I don't want to go out for drinks with my friends. Then I want to take my friends out for drinks, right? Because that's what you're potentially holding out for, is the one who can, where you don't have to think like, oh, I only have this much, and so I should only do this. And, you don't live from a place of, so you don't live from a place of limitation or scarcity. You actually live out of abundance. But then you have to be willing to trade up for that. So with that, I want to ask you something about comparisons, right? So I'm sure in that period it was also hard for you. And even though I hear you speak about how you meditated, you prayed, you asked God,
Yeah.
like, is this really for me? Is this journey really the one you want me to be on? But a lot of the times, and we all do it, and I do it too, and I'm sure Lou does, and I'm sure everyone else on the call does as well, that you like, let's just say you could scroll on Instagram, right? And we all do it, right? We all do the
Yeah.
scroll up, and then you like hit it and think, oh my God, look at them. They have this place, they're having a great time. And oh God, look at me, I'm such a loser. Or I should have been further down my journey, or why haven't I saved enough? Why haven't I traveled enough? Like there's all these questions. And like for a long time, a lot of us can dwell in comparisonville is what I call it. Like you just live there comparing yourself to others. But in doing that, we strip away, right? We strip away from what we really have. And Lou was talking about gratitude and how important that habit of sitting with your gratitude and being grateful for the moment you're in, for the things you have. But we can get so caught up when we on our Instagram or Facebook feed. And I think it's such a slippery slope, like
Yeah.
on a down. I call it a slippery slope on a downward spiral because you're going fast nowhere, right? You're just going into a place that's not helping you. And so for me, I really want for you to share with us, and because you're sharing so honestly, tell us the things that you do to tap into your creativity. How do you shut out that kind of noise that exists out there? And I'm sure you're bombarded with it as we all are. And so what are the rituals or the escapes or the intentional habits that you have that help you to just tap into your own brilliance?
Geez, with let me answer the first part about like social media. So I remember when I came back, from the UK, obviously it was like really such a highlight for me. I've just graduated, it's great. Guess what I was doing, Cheryl? I was going on to Facebook and comparing myself and feeling like what I had achieved was so inadequate compared to other people. And that's when I knew that this tool, even though, it can be used for good, but it was toxic for me. And I actually got off Facebook. I haven't returned ever since. It's one of the best decisions I've made for myself, because it's given me the opportunity to just be me and stop comparing myself, because it's a weakness. And, comparison is such a thief. It steals your creativity. It steals like from who you're supposed to be. So, it was initially I think a 1 month fast. 1 month turned into months and years now. So I think this is like my fourth year off of Facebook. I recently just, got onto Instagram for professional purposes. And even that, I'm just like, do I really want this? Because, it's almost like a rabbit hole, right? Yeah. It started off with me like doing it professionally. But then you start like looking at, what other people are doing and why are they going to the Maldives and you're not, and, all these things. And I just, you have to protect your peace. So for me, I just got off social media, well, Facebook, that is. And even the, Instagram thing, I'm just like, not ready for me. I think I need to now actually make steps to just officially get off. But it's one of the best things that I did for myself, because it gave me the opportunity to just really focus without having so many voices in my mind. Because, social media for me, I don't really want to make it generic for everyone, but for me, it was just a voice. So many different voices coming in, and it was starting to like impact the vision that I have for myself and the goals that I would have, because now their goals are starting to become mine, and I'm taking ownership of things that I'm not supposed to. So that's why I got off. And I think for me, fortunately, I think because of the line of business that I'm in, I think for people who need social media for their businesses, this can be a really like a struggle, because you have to actively engage on these platforms. But for me, I think just with my journey, it wasn't so pivotal, because we're in biotech. You can't even, for example, really advertise a diagnostic device on any platform. So that's what helped me. But I think for those who, their businesses are pivotal, they have to be or have some sort of social media presence. I think it's important for them to manage that, so that it doesn't end up being something that steals from their joy. It should be adding on to what you're doing and not taking away. And for me at that time, it was taking away, and I was like, ugh, I'm out of here. And then your second question, shucks, Cheryl. I forgot.
That's okay. It's a conversation.
Maybe you can give me a hint. I'll remember. I had an answer for it.
It's about, so what do you do in order to like tap into your creativity?
Creativity. So I read a lot. I read a lot. And I'm really a nerd. Maybe I must be more so specific. I'm not like your nerd with the 1,000 books behind you. But I love like reading academic journals for fun on science, so that because it really keeps me going, and thinking about what the rest of the world is doing, and not necessarily in my division, but or my industry, but related businesses. I also expose myself to different things. I've committed to learning something new every year. So one of the things I learned at some point was fashion designing. And that was actually one of the best things. It didn't make sense when I was like, guys, I want to take a course in fashion designing, it didn't make sense at the time for a lot of people. But today, like, it makes so much sense, because fashion designing, it's an amazing process of how you conceptualize something in your mind. You draw out the plan, you cut the fabric, and you start making it. At the end of the day, you have something tangible that you can hold. And that's what I live every day. I conceptualize an innovation. You jot down the plan as to how you're going to get there, and then you actively sit and you go and make it until you have something that's tangible in your hand. So it really just opened up my mind to being creative, and just like having that freedom of expression to create stuff. I still make things in my spare time. I'd love to learn how to play music. I've always wanted to play the violin. So at some point I'll get myself a violin. I love cooking. I also want to take a course, these nice professional chef courses. I'd love to do that because there's also an element of creativity. So for me, creativity represents a sense of freedom. So you have to be free to discover things, try new things, try things that are outside of your norm, your industry, and just explore. I think from a young child, I've always had that explorer's heart, and I see that playing into my life almost on a daily basis.
I love that. We want to hear you play the violin. So now that you put it out in a public space, we're going to have.
No, Cheryl, don't do that to me.
I've been telling myself I'm going to learn to play the guitar for the longest time. So last year I said, oh my gosh, working from home, I have no excuse, I have time. And all of 2020 went by. And so 2021 came, and I said, like, okay, no, this is the year. So if you play the violin, maybe I'll play the guitar with you, maybe, I don't know. But I do love that you have these little things that you're aspirational about, that you kind of, it's not just that you're so focused just on these like startups that you have and only the healthcare sector, but really you have these additional things that you tap into that brings your creativity to your life, which I'm sure also brings so much more color to the work that you're doing currently. And I think we all need those. And I think some of us use reading as escapism. I don't know whether I'll be leaving journals anytime soon, but I love that you have these little escapes. And so maybe my call to action for those of you who are on the call is, what are your little escapes? What are you using for escapism? Is it watching Netflix? And how's that working out for you? But I do recommend you watch Bridgerton. But other than that, I don't think Netflix is going to be.
I'm actually hooked on a series called Girlfriends. Like when I was young, it was entertaining, but like I think I was too young to catch on to it. But now, Cheryl, like it's just speaking into my life on so many levels. Like I think I'm on episode 5, so which means season 5. So I've watched like over 100 episodes. Don't ask me where I found that time, but just know, So Netflix is not a bad recommendation.
Well, it's necessary. I mean, me and Lucretia are going to be really honest in this space and tell you over Christmas we did watch Bridgerton. Like that did take a lot of our time.
And then I discovered there's a whole series of books on it. So I'm audio listening to the related books now because I kind of couldn't get past the last episode. But yeah.
But I do think that, like, just for those of you listening, like, can you find something that sparks your creativity, something that gives you joy, like to do it? It's not something that's dependent on your career, and it's not dependent on anything else, but just you finding an escape or finding happiness and joy in that moment. So I might actually give guitar a chance, and find the time to do that. And Dineo might do cooking, or she might play the violin. We don't know which of those it might
Which one?
be.
I'll
But
let you know.
please do. So the rest of you, like, think of something, and then in the chat, tell us what that one thing might be that you're going to tap into. Whilst you're doing that, I have a story, which was, I'm going totally off script here, but you said something, and I remember the story that I heard, and so I'm going to share it with you guys. So there was a family of frogs, and so amongst that family of frogs, a couple of them decided that they're going to climb a pole. So there was a pole in the middle of this frog community, and these frogs decided they're going to climb the pole. And so they started climbing, and the community joined, and they started to look at them and say, like, what are you doing? Frogs don't climb poles. Like, get off that. You will fall and you will get hurt. Get off the pole. And as the community grew, they were louder and louder about how these frogs are just ridiculous. Like, why are they going up a pole? What are you hoping to achieve by going up the pole? And as they heard the community jeer at them, one by one, the frogs began to fall off the pole, because they started to believe, like, yeah, frogs don't climb poles actually. And where am I going up this pole anyway? And so they started to fall off as they started to hear the crowd. But this one frog just kept going. He kept going and going. And he got to a certain point, and then the crowd started to cheer for him. Like, he's actually going to do it, and he's going to make it. And he got all the way to the top, and they all were really excited for him. Can anyone in the chat or Dineo guess how come he got all the way to the top? Anyone? Any takers? Lou?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Avenue.
That's a good one.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Oh, so he wasn't discouraged, or she wasn't discouraged by anyone.
Absolutely. He was totally deaf, and he got all the way up because he just didn't listen to the noise. And I think for you saying, like, not listen, like taking Facebook off your phone or from your other devices and just getting off the noise is so important. And so it made me think about this frog story. And so for me, it's really important, to what things are you becoming tone deaf? There's certain things in life we have to just shut it out and just get to what we want to. And like you rightly said, and I thought about the frog story only because you told me it was those ones asking, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then they became your biggest fans to say, like, oh, you're doing it. Well done. We're so happy for you. But this is how it is in life. People don't always believe what you believe in. And can you have the conviction and the courage to just push through on the things you truly believe in? And so I love your story. I think you're that little frog. And so in that story, you're the frog who decided to not take the consultant jobs, not listen to what people had to say, not even be deterred by your parents who were genuinely concerned about you. Yeah. But you needed for a while to just be tone deaf to everything everyone was saying. And so here's my challenge to the rest of you as well. Like, in this year 2021, what are the things you're going to become tone deaf to? What are the things you're willing to switch off so that you can get to where you want to go? That you can truly say, I have the courage to not listen and not live in comparisonville. Yeah. So with that, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add with that. I think for me, really, number one, the noise inside, the lack of peace was louder than the noise coming from the outside. But also, you know, to be quite honest with you, like, as I mentioned earlier, like, I think as Allen Gray Fellows, we're so used to, you know, getting trophies, getting recognition and the like. So it's easy for us to fall into this habit of people pleasing because, you know, you get some sort of reward for doing well, right? People applaud you, you know, and it feels good. It generally feels good. And I think a lot of us have been achievers from a young age, be it primary school throughout to where you are right now. You've got a really amazing corporate job. Everybody's clapping hands for you. So to be able to move back to be making sure that, you know, whatever decisions you're making are not so that you can get an applause, but are in alignment with what you want to do. And for me, you know, Cheryl, I won't lie to you, it's something that I really struggled with for a long time, you know, and to a point where I actually had to go for therapy at some point where one of the things that, my therapist pointed out was this issue of people pleasing, and that how that is such a limiting stronghold. And I had to go through like my processes of just dealing with that challenge. And it's so easy for you to not take note of it because you're doing so well and everybody's clapping for you. And, of course, I've just, gotten this really amazing job, or I just got promoted, or, whatever the trophy is for you. Just make sure that it's what you want, and not so that you can get an applause from other people.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a process to get to that point.
Wow. Yeah.
That is such good advice. Lou, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, well, they're just people throwing in their stuff in the comments. We've got Avu who wants to be a gym buff. I'm not sure exactly at what point. Avu, I'm with you. I box every Tuesday. I call it my boxing Tuesday, just, to unwind and forget everything. There's somebody who actually bought the DJ. Please come to my house. The DJ deck. I think it's Mandela who said, I bought the DJ deck and we'll be playing around with it. So that's really also quite exciting. And then Sipo says to Avu, please get in touch with Bonolo. I'm not sure what Bonolo does, but I'm sure it's something to do with training and the gym. And then there's a comment to Cheryl that we need to pick things up that will become, we need to really do this, become tone deaf to all the noise around us, just in general. Very good advice, Gugu says.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for engaging us. It's really hard when we're alone in the room. So your chat helps us know that you're here and you're listening, and that I'm not totally blabbering about nonsense. So Dineo, so there was this, I read a research that a number of women entrepreneurs were interviewed. And when they were all asked this question, they were asked what's inspiring them. The majority of them answered that they inspire themselves. Inspiration is found in themselves. And I think it's strong and successful women who make inspiration happen rather than wait for inspiration to hit them. And I don't know who came up with that quote, like it's like my bugbear, like inspiration never hits. It doesn't happen, like it doesn't come and smack you on the face like, oh, I'm here now, and like get your book and pen and start writing or whatever it is. You have to just find that within you. You have to dig deep and find your inspiration. And obviously everyone finds inspiration in different things, which kind of give you the momentum to go and do that thing. So I'm really interested to hear from you. But before that, I want to remind everyone that if you were on this call with Susie last month, I think it was as well. Susie said something that I put down in my notebook, and I told them I'm going to steal it. And she said, the one thing that she realized is that you have to be savage about your own dreams. Let me see, I wrote the quote down exactly as she said it. She said, be savage to service your own dreams. Yeah. That was so powerful, right? And so I'm really curious to put that back out to you, to ask you, what are you totally savage about when you're servicing your dreams? What are the absolutes, like, what is your non-negotiables when it comes to servicing your dream?
That would definitely be alignment. There's so many opportunities flying around, in the universe, around the world. But I'm really so strict about alignment and focus, because it would be difficult for me right now to, maybe with wealth, and you can manage different projects, these people who have multiple businesses in different industries, you can get to that point. But right now, it's definitely alignment to my purpose. So that's why it's easy for me to say no to really amazing opportunities that sound great, that could potentially make me a lot of money, or even, give society the impact that I'm also looking to give. But if it's not in alignment with what I'm doing, it's a no for me. And and I think it also really just goes down to what Susie had said. You have to be really strict and be a savage about it. Otherwise, you'll just be blown by the wind everywhere you go.
I love that.
Oh, yeah. Someone earlier said,
oh,
you're the strength to do that. It requires a lot of boldness and strength to do that. So I'm sure this is helping a lot of people.
yeah.
And I mean, there are times of fear, guys. I'm also just being honest. There are times where you're like, what the hell am I doing? Are you sure? The thoughts of fear going over and over, like in your mind, and you think about 10,000 scenarios for one thing. But you just need to find what it is that gets you going, your source of inspiration, and what will keep you going in those times of fear. For me, it's really scripture, the word of God. Like, I just go back and remind myself of like the promises that God has made for me, that even if I fail, I'm gonna be okay. Like, I will not be a failure. But you need to have some sort of a central point, something that centers you in those moments of fear, because they do come more often than not. But you have to have something that just ties you down to the middle. And for me, it's definitely my faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I think that's so important. I think having that one thing that grounds you, and for you, it's your faith, but for someone else, it could be something else, and whatever it is to you, I think it's about having that one thing that grounds you. It's a lot of people, I know it's about your values. Can your values drive you? Do you know what your values are? Have you chosen what's your top 5 values? And then can you ask yourself, every time you have an opportunity, can you filter it through those values and say, is it bringing me closer to the person I want to be? And I think we don't have those hard conversations with ourselves. Yeah. I was having a chat with a friend recently, and we don't actually sit quietly with ourselves, and ask ourselves questions, like what do I want? Who do I want to go there with? Like, if I have this big dream, who am I trusting to come alongside me to believe in my dreams? Can I trust this person to call me out when I'm not doing things that are aligned? So having an accountability partner, for example. And we don't sit quietly enough to have those conversations and to have those thought processes. But throughout this conversation, I've heard you say it. And for you, I can hear that your spirituality and taking time out to pray and meditate and to hear what God is saying to you is so important. Yeah. And for others, it might be like doing yoga. It might be doing nature, just walking in nature and listening to what nature's telling you and drawing inspiration from that. But I think one of the things that I'm definitely gleaning from you is that having that one thing that you can go to, that's your foundation. It's the thing that helps centers you and really gives you direction. So I love that. So I think I'm going to give it to Lou, because I can see there's some people that have been saying stuff in the chat. And so we'll just bring that in before I bring this conversation to a close.
Yeah, well, there's just a comment from Kihisha who says, the winds have been blowing me over and over again. And I think it happens to the best of us. And I've always assumed that the best route is the most guaranteed and successful one. So thank you for this uncomfortable, quote unquote, conversation. We also have someone saying, just, as you journey along, there's also a shift that sometimes happens. We are all evolving beings, right? So even your values, sometimes you really need to sit back and reflect on them, because you do change. Sometimes you grow out of certain things and definitely certain people as you journey along. And the question is to Dineo, if she can share about shifting dreams and ideas that you have had, and how did you how did you manage through that process? When you come to the realization that maybe I shouldn't continue on this journey, maybe it's time for change, or something something that made you happy yesterday just doesn't resonate anymore. How have you navigated through that?
Yeah, no, that's also a good question, especially because it's such a reality, the things that I was passionate about, like say 5 years ago, are very different to what they are now. I think I'm fortunate that it's now become more focused. because as a result of the exposure. So one thing I would definitely advise is like, just give yourself room to grow. Give yourself room to be wrong about certain things, to make mistakes. You know, maybe you go into one business and, you know, you're like, I thought this was highly profitable. Clearly it's not. I've learned my lesson. Take what you need to take from that experience and give yourself room to grow, and don't like lock yourself up and say what you start off with is what you definitely have to end with for the rest of your life. Yeah, so just be easy on yourself, and allow yourself to evolve. I mean, Lucretia, you use that word evolve. It's really about evolution. The person that you are today is very different to who you'll be in 5-10 years time. So allow yourself that experience, and nothing for me is a waste. You know, the 2 degrees that I did that I'm not using right now in the lab or whatever were not a waste. There was an experience to that. You know, at some point I even also took a gap year, by the way, in my journey. I didn't include that. But that was not a waste. You know, it was such a great time for reflection, and it's, you know, helped me to be where I am today. And I think a lot of the times we are so hard on ourselves because we're so, you know, performance focused. You know, you want to tick certain KPIs. No, from this experience, I should have gained X, Y, Z. And sometimes that's not the case. You know, you have to look back and say, apart from what I expected, what else did I learn from this particular situation, and carry that through into your next, you know, venture, idea, business, whatever it is. So just really allowing yourself the room to evolve.
Gosh, that is such great advice. Like, I can't overstate it. Give yourself room to grow is such good advice. And I think we're sometimes so hard on ourselves. I think sometimes as women, we super hard on ourselves, and we hold ourselves to these really high standards. And sometimes we don't always meet those standards, and then we super hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up. And I think just giving yourself room to grow, to make mistakes is just such beautiful advice. And I think both Lucretia and I, being older sisters in this room, we're going to tell you that that is the truth. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. Give yourself permission to try it and say, oh, okay, so this didn't work out. That's okay. I'm going to try something else. And Dineo, you said something so important. You said, like, take what you can. So harvest the good and move forward. You don't have to take everything with you. Just harvest the good and move forward. And I think it's something we don't always get told, you know, like when you're harvesting in the garden, you don't take the bad fruit with the good fruit and move forward. You just take the good fruit and move forward. And it's the same for life.
Yeah, and it was there for purpose.
And I think the other thing is like, be an easy friend to yourself. Yeah. We're not easy friends to ourselves. And so if you were gonna give advice, going to be there for a friend, sometimes the exact same approach you would have for a friend applied to yourself. Because I think as women, you rightly point out, we can be very, very tough on ourselves and set too high standards. And then we end up losing momentum only because we get stuck on perfection rather than progress. And progress is a lot more important than perfection.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
And I love to know that you keep going back to what anchors you. So whether for you it's the universe or God, just trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be all the time. And even when you have this idea that, you know, things haven't quite worked out the way you thought they should have at that point in your life, the point in your entrepreneur journey, or whatever it is that, you know, you had planned to do. You know how they say, you know, we make plans and God laughs sometimes. So sometimes we don't even really know what's really good for us. I know personally for me, again, that's digressing a little bit, but for me, it was because I was such a late mom, right? So around 34, I'd kind of, you know, thought to myself that I'm going to be the cool rich aunt, because all my nieces really thought of me as cooler than my sisters, my 2 older sisters that are like 10 years older than me. So I'd resigned myself to say, I love to travel, I love my life. You know, when you're at that point in your life where you really think, this is it for me, like, this is my purpose, this is who I'm supposed to be ultimately. Then I fell pregnant, and it was not planned. And I really thought it was the end of the world for me, because, you know, I was like, what about my job? What about traveling? What about all these things that I was really super happy about? And amongst my group of friends, I was also the first one to become a mom. And I really thought, oh my God, what is happening? But ask anyone who's met me, I am obsessed with my daughter. Like, you know, it was such a paradigm shift. Like, people get sick of me. All I talk about is that child. And she really just put me on a different path, but a way more beautiful path that I ever dreamt of. So I love that whole thing of just, you know, trusting your God and trusting the universe and just trusting your values, that you are always exactly where you are meant to be, you know.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
a really beautiful example. Thank you for sharing that. That was actually inspiring. Yeah,
Wonderful. So, Dineo, as we close, I want you to probably just, in closing, if there's one piece of advice that you can give to the remaining people in the room, if you're going to take a contrarian path, if you're going to go on that path less traveled, what is the one thing that they should bear in mind? What is the one piece of advice that you wish someone would have given you that you can give to the participants in the room?
oh, shame. I think she has, Cheryl has load shedding.
Yeah, well, we'll just
All the lights out. But you know, in all honesty, and I want to prepare people for it, because I think we think, oh, choosing your own path is going to be rosy and it's perfect. It gets hard, guys. It gets hard. There are times, like I said, a lot of the times, once I've made that decision, especially I think before you make the decision where you're still like, you know, sitting on the fence. Yes, it's a tough choice to make, but once you've made that choice, go for what you want. Expect, you know, to face some challenges. Expect to face resistance, but trust me, it gets way better. And there's not, I don't regret anything, any of the decisions that I've made to date. It's been totally worth it. Yes, like I said, there were moments where like I really, it was a tough time. Like I would cry basically every night, asking myself, what the hell am I thinking? And if this is going to work out. But it's part of the process. If you're lucky, maybe you might not go through those challenges, and just, you know, have favor and blessings from the moment you say yes to the call. But at the same time, expect the challenges. It's not necessarily always going to be rosy, and you will get people, especially close people, whose opinions you value, who will go against what you want, you know, or what you believe is right for you, and you need to be okay with that. Sometimes I also said, like, it's not personal. For me, I believed God used it as an opportunity to make me outgrow this people pleasing thing and outgrow wanting validation. So he almost like used them as a test for me. And, you know, once I'd gone past through that test, then the applause that I was looking for the whole time came. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Yeah, that you will disappoint people, but as long as you're being true to yourself and where you're going, that's number one.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all the nuggets. And Cheryl calls them anti-fear all the time. You know, that there will always be those whispers in your ear with well-meaning aunties and uncles that are, you know, questioning your decisions and reminding you of their expectations of you. But it's been a really awesome evening, just, you know, sitting here and chatting with you. And thank you everyone for joining us. I think we've got about 2 minutes left for this session. I don't know if Cheryl will be able to come back online. But like from everyone in the chat, there are a few comments. People just saying, thank you, Dineo, for just being so vulnerable with us, and you know, for sharing your journey and all the nuggets that came with it. There's also a comment that, you know, you can only own your path and own your space if you keep at it. Because every time if somebody says something contrarian to what you were trying to do, and then you kind of change and waver, then it's not really your path. So owning your space requires that boldness, that steadfastness to just stay the course, especially when, you know, things are not very clear and guaranteed, so to speak. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and we wish you all the best for 2021 and keep safe. And Dineo, I'm sure I will bring you back later on sometime. And to everyone, particularly the female fellows, me and Shay are very passionate about sharing this journey with you. That's really what brought us to E-Squared, just, you know, that this opportunity to work with you. So we're very excited about all your ventures. And even outside this platform, please reach out to us and tell us what you're doing, what your challenges are, where you need assistance, even if it's just, you know, a call to chat to somebody. We are here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is a poll from Megs. Thank you, Megs and Sipo, for organizing, and everybody at E-Squared. I don't know if Odds is also online, who always put these platforms together. We always forget to say thank you to them. So thank you so much, Megan, and thank you, Sipo and Audrey, on our Pathways and Programs team.
Thank you so much, Lucretia. I also think it's such a privilege to be able to share my story. So thank you for allowing me to be able to do that. Yeah, and I've personally enjoyed the other sessions that I've been a part of. So this is a really great initiative. I absolutely love it. And I love like the honesty about, you know, the stories that the other ladies did.
We want to keep it as authentic as possible. So thanks for maintaining that. And there are people always in the audience for us. Kululeko, there's Pinky. There are always people that support us. Please tell all the other Alan Gray Fellows about, you know, experiences here, and do please give us the feedback. There is a poll that's running now from Megan, just to make sure that, you know, we get some feedback from this evening, what your expectations are, what you loved. And I also got my food box. I hope all the people that we promised got their food box. Let us know how you love that food or where we can improve as well. So thanks for that. Okay.
Great, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Yes, okay. She has load shedding. So from myself and Cheryl and Dineo, thank you. Oh, there she is.
I'm here in voice because I'm sitting in total darkness. But thank you for everyone. Thank you to everyone for joining, and thank you so much for being so honest and so vulnerable. It takes such a courageous, strong young woman to be able to do that, and we so appreciate you doing that today.
Oh, thank you so much, Cheryl. I appreciate that as well.
Cool. Well, take care. Everyone can put their videos on and unmute and say goodbye, and we'd love to see your face, even if you like me sitting in the dark.
Or even whatever, yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Yes.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Good evening.
Okay. Enjoy dinner.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. It was a lovely session.
Awesome. We're glad you enjoyed it.